So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:03. And I want to welcome any YouTube viewers that are here. This is the first maiden voyage of our YouTube channel. So we would like feedback about how well you heard the proceedings. And you're more than welcome to give us feedback on the proceedings themselves through our email, which is waterfront@Winterport, Maine spelled out, .gov. So again, welcome, and we're going to begin with roll call attendance. I'll start, Mary Ann Royal.
Earl Higgins.
Alan Cohen.
Kimball Rockcliffe.
Tanya Taylor.
Sundance Campbell.
Great. Next item on the agenda is additions to the agenda. Does anyone here have anything they'd like to add to the agenda tonight? I have a couple things, actually just one thing. I'd like to add future agenda items before adjourn. So that would be 9 and adjourn would be 10. And that's so we don't lose anything that we might be working on, like a remote participation policy, that sort of thing. Okay? So with that addition to the agenda, I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
We have a secretary, Mary Ann. Are you used to
I
doing
know,
it?
but I need to know where I am in the process. She's doing that. Bear with me. Second Sundance. Okay, any discussion? Any discussion about the agenda or the additions? Would you like to know what the additions are that I have?
Well, now that's sneaky.
Well, it is future agenda items, but I have 3
Sure.
that are, that I'd like to add, which is our process, remote participation policy, and the rules of procedure that we've been working on that we'll need to approve, so. Okay, all right. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor of the amended agenda? Unanimous? Okay. Next order of business is to approve the July 23rd minutes. You all got them. Hope you had a chance to look them over. Any corrections, additions, omissions?
Motion to accept. Or approve.
Well, second.
Second? Any discussion about any of the items? All right. All in favor? Unanimous?
Anyone opposed to me trying to bring the temperature down a few degrees? No?
Yeah,
I'm
open
trying-
windows?
Like literally going to the thermostat to see if we can.
Yeah, well, we can open
That's
windows.
an alarm. Yeah, we should probably do open the windows on that side and this side. The air will flow through.
Good idea.
Because the thermostats are down the hallway, I believe.
There, moving right out.
Please let us remember to close them.
Yes.
Okay. Having taken care of the atmosphere, we will move on to debriefing the site visit. And I'd just like to propose that we have a general discussion about things you noticed and things we will need to follow up on. Maybe we could start with Kimball just kind of reading some of the
Okay, I'll run through what I wrote down.
Yeah.
So, the rest of us, you guys, I was kind of glad you struck off on your own to check things out. But Vicky kind of walked us around, chatted with us. I did get her contact info. So we started down by the water. There was that harbor master house. We counted, she said there was around 22 docks, pretty bad shape. Retaining wall, I don't know the length of that. I just wrote retaining wall. And then there's that white house that's right on the water with the pool. Then Vicky and Chris's house, kind of the maroon one that had the new garage next to it. Seemed like their business was on across the kind of property line map that we had. Log cabin, I wrote that down, but separate lot over there that we don't deal with. The 3 great big garages for boat storage and 1 small one. Piles of scrap metal, tires, it looks old fire truck, old bus, around 30 plus, but maybe a more accurate 48 abandoned boats. Potential spillage of oil on the property, and DEP liens from this tugboat that was torn apart. So question, what's included, broken equipment, what is the town, what have they acquired on this land, what's included? We would need a survey, we need to call a code inspector. And she mentioned a nonprofit, the auto sales business. I guess that was kind of what stuck out. I was thinking things were looking more complicated the more I heard. Those are my notes.
I agree with everything you said. It does look a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say how overwhelming it is. My thoughts are, I came down here in Winterport in 1985 and bought a business, and everybody asked me, what is in Winterport? And I said, nothing. That's why I came down, and I found quite the contrary. There's a lot in Winterport. You have a lot of buried old money. You have a lot of professional people. So I mean, and that's just guides my thinking. I was marketing. Yeah, it looks like shit, but an expression. But my thinking is an assessor as it is, and what it could be. Contractor for the estimates, because I'm saying, and I know these numbers are probably scary, just off the top of my head, $8 million. But what could we generate on the other side of that to refurbish it? We would need, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just talking now, I'm just talking ideas.
Yeah.
An assessor to get the property value as it sits right now.
Appraisal.
Yeah.
Appraiser.
Yeah.
Appraiser, assessor. And I think we need the assessor, because I don't see what the value of the property is in any of my numbers here.
The tax.
But an appraiser, what it is and what it could be, a contractor to give us a plan to work off that meets the appraiser's things. Rudman and Winchell to get rid of those boats. And anybody will buy a boat if you give it to them for the right price. You haul it away, it's $500.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Can I ask you,
Sure.
why would you involve Rudman Winchell in the boats?
To get rid of them.
How would they get rid of them?
We have to do it. We would have to seek them. How do we get rid of this property?
So I think it brings up, more questions to add to our list to ask
Yeah.
at the next meeting.
Okay,
The-
so hold that thought then.
How do we get rid of this property?
Right.
Because get it out of there. Over the years, I've known people in Winterport that have gone from boats from here, and they sail down to Blue Hill, sometimes down to Rockland, and they come back.
I guess my question, I've got a few, but I guess one of my questions I have is if they're currently still running it as a storage facility, because, and I don't know if that's correct or not, but from what I was gathering, is that some of those boats, people are still paying for, and some of the boats are abandoned. And so I guess we're gonna have to understand what's abandoned, what's not abandoned, what does someone own?
It doesn't
And,
matter. Do they
Right.
all have to go?
well, they all, right, they do all have to go, but we have to I mean, those people would have to be notified.
That was what
And I think that's where Rudman and Winchell would come in. You know, how do we perform this? I've never dealt with a marina or a boat.
Right,
I've only dealt with the offspring because I own the store down here. And I would sell hundreds of dollars to these boats coming up and docking down there. Walter Cronkite came into my store one day when he was selling his boat up there. Bought hundreds of dollars worth of food and supplies.
Yeah.
I guess my other
That's it.
question is, I know we had talked about the other property that's still up in the air, that's on the, I guess it's Chris, is it Chris's property? That other lot,
Mhm.
like that building, that T&M, that auto sales building, I didn't necessarily see that on the initial like review, because I think there was a house, a garage, and the T&M auto sales, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I just missed
It shows on the map,
all three.
yes.
I see two.
Yeah, I don't see the
No, you're right. I
commercial
don't see it.
garage.
No,
no,
there's
that's-
two, and now there's a
No, you're right.
commercial garage that's included in there that we didn't have on this.
Garage in the house.
And that garage is right on the, like, right almost on that road line. How, I guess I would wanna understand how all that would work, if, they own that, the town doesn't own that, I guess, I just have questions about that. Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely need to understand the cost,
Mhm.
right, that's associated with taking this on. That's, I guess, my big question is like, how much is it gonna cost? And,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and because there's a lot of moving parts in it with people living there, and I guess I need to just understand like what, if we do own that land, like, how does that work with their structure on it? And what is the process to obtain it if we need to? Or do we not? Like, I just don't, I
Chris's
guess.
land is not part of this, is it?
The land is,
Yeah,
the
the
land
house
is.
isn't.
The
Right.
land is, but the house is.
Yeah, so, the town's position as stated by, town manager Casey, was that we own the land. We don't own the structure on it, yeah.
Right.
And that we'd have to buy that from him.
Mhm. So I
or-
guess.
Or pay him for the house.
Right.
That's right, because he
Yeah.
wants to move up across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that looks like a pretty nice place on the river, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the structure's worth,
Mhm.
how you value that, but yeah. And then I suppose that's probably true of the garage too, so the single family, the garage,
Different.
we don't own either of those structures, but we own the land.
The land, right?
As well as that double wide, it's, up near the road, that's not owned by the town. But the owner of that is willing to move it, or is aware they're gonna have to move it. And same with the daughter's trailer up on the main road.
Yeah.
That trailer itself isn't owned, maybe it is.
That is already owned
That is
by
owned.
the town.
Yeah. So a lot of pieces to it, I guess is what I'm hearing, right? It feels a little overwhelming when you're down there. To Phil's point though, it may or may not be, you just have to think about it. And, if someone said you could, make those boats go away by a 90-day notice and
Mhm.
sell every one of them for $500, then that gets a lot of stuff out of there. So you just don't know, I guess, but, so we have to find out, right?
That's our job.
She was, Tanya, is that her name?
Well, that's my Vicky.
I'm sorry, Vicky, I knew that it was Vicky, I'm sorry. Vicky said about putting 3 notices in to the newspaper for each owner, to let them know that their property is going to be auctioned. So,
So we need to determine whether we want to take that on as our responsibility or give notice to the owner now of the marina that it needs to be taken care of. So that is, so I wrote down literally who is responsible for dealing with what is there.
Yeah,
So, I
because
think,
I guess if someone is currently paying, like, and that's where the legal piece is
Yeah.
coming in. So if people are currently paying and they have a contract and now we're telling them that has to go, like, how does that work legally? I think that's a good question
Yeah.
for the lawyer.
Yeah, I
Do you
kind
want to write those questions down for what?
often
What was the
those
question? Sorry.
The
contracts are, like 30 days notice can void a contract. I mean, that's sort of the standard.
So
thing.
how do we get rid of those and / who's responsible?
yeah, I kind of thought of that, the overall question in two parts. One is like, what happens to all the equipment that the estate of Roger Johnson, the, old snorkel
Right.
lift that's there, the old trucks. Presumably those are not ours, the towns, those are the estates, so. But, I don't know the answer to that, so it'd be good to know, are those coming with it or not? But then certainly every boat there, for the most part, was owned by someone else at some point, even if it defaulted. So, what do we do with Roger's equipment? And what do we do with the boat that belongs to someone else or did belong to someone else?
The only thing that
so one thing that really struck me as we were talking and based on some comments that Casey made about the condition of the buildings there was, and it will cost us nothing, is to have the code enforcement go and inspect everything. Code enforcement officer, our code enforcement officer go and inspect everything to see, literally if everything is, what's the right word, is
coincide.
Salvageable?
up to code,
Yeah.
period, up to code.
And there's a state level code enforcement officer. Is that a person we'd want to have come?
Let's start local, maybe,
Mhm.
and then if he recommends getting, because it is shoreland zoned.
Yeah.
So there'd be a DEP component too.
I mean, I think it's worth having the state person come in, haven't had to deal with them in Orono and like buildings I own. You did want the state guy coming because he knew more and held you to a higher standard. I mean, not that you don't want to, be held to a high standard, but that's pretty tough when someone's telling you need to, re-drywall an entire building so that it's 5/8, not, or 3/8, not 5/8, that's tough. And the state person generally,
I had no
I
idea
found
there
those
was. Do
more.
you know what office he's out of?
I could look it up. It's been 20 years since I had to deal with them, but.
If we started with the state, and if we started with our own assessor,
Mhm.
and then the state comes in, we wasted 2 months.
Yeah.
Because he'll find mistakes that our local person didn't.
Right,
So if we started up there, there's also inter-office conversations. Hey, do you know what's going on in Winterport if they appraised you yet?
We're gonna bring them both in,
Is there
at the
cost?
same time. No, they'll
Decision
come.
for
They're
the
happy to
state.
come.
well, our local code enforcement officer knows our local codes. And all of the, requirements related to those.
Who is our local code enforcement officer?
Hmm?
Who is our local code enforcement
I
officer?
think we just hired a new one. We lost one.
So we're sharing one with another town. Don't we?
Yeah, he's only here 1 or 2 days a
Yeah.
week at the most,
So I'm
so,
gonna put a fine point on it. My experience with the state person is they're gonna come and they're gonna give you everything. Which helps us because if we do acquire or we choose to keep the property, we're gonna have to fix everything, right? And you'd hate to, fix everything to one standard, only have the state stop by, at the end of the game and say, oh, no, you got more to do.
Yeah.
And it's a tough game. I mean, you could have 30, how this go. We all know, I think, you could have 30 different people come and inspect something. Everyone's gonna find something just a little bit different than the last person, but, I think it actually helps us to bring in both at no cost at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
But because, if he has a higher repair bill for us than the local guy, that actually helps. We want it fixed. There's a lot of value in that property. So, why not get it fixed to whatever the highest standard we can is?
So
Just a thought.
keep in mind, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, just one person's opinion, that's all.
Keep in mind that the short-term goal is to buy or not buy.
Right.
But we do not have to have the property that's a long-term goal, taking care of the property, creating whatever it is we decide to recommend to the town council for use of that property is a long-term goal. So we don't have to rush the process once it's bought, I guess is what I'm trying to say, once it's purchased.
But would we want to purchase it if it's not worth it? I guess that's what we have to figure out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, the dollar amounts for getting it up to code will influence our decision, or the town's
Sure.
decision.
Certainly.
Or whether it is even salvageable.
Right.
Casey seemed to mention that some of those garages had big holes in them and pieces falling off. We didn't really get a chance to.
Yeah, look at our sand shed.
Yeah,
We don't
exactly.
want to get that.
Yeah.
We want to have this done first.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with Sundance on that in regards to having the state and the local together to do that. I think that's a smart idea to come in and affects.
Is that both and? Is that what I heard you say?
I would say if they're able to do that in tandem, like if they could both come in and do that. Or the state, if the state holds it at a higher standard, that's
My
maybe what we wanna
thing
do.
is, on that, and I understand completely. I don't know what the skill set of this code enforcement officer is. Has he ever dealt with this stuff?
Right.
And this is a pretty big project.
Mm-hmm.
Is he gonna wanna stick his neck out?
Mm-hmm.
Or just say, hey, no hard feelings, we just thought, a bigger skill set and the state comes in and
Yeah.
does it.
Mhm.
And I think after that, the appraiser
Mm-hmm.
will have something to work off. And like doing, not the assessor, the appraiser would have something to work off. Because they're not gonna give us reports in a week. It's gonna be a month, 2 months out.
Mhm.
But I do think it's important to know, so.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I'm not.
We might be getting away from the question that you posed, which was like debrief on the site, so redirect us if you want to, but, I think you'd mentioned this earlier. I think at some level, some of the first steps are hire an appraiser to appraise the property. They're gonna appraise it probably 2 or 3 different ways, but one would be like highest and best use. And if I'm the estate, I certainly would want you to find out that number too, right? You have 2 nice single families on the river and then some function, maybe functioning marina. So, but it's gonna take some time. If you hire an appraiser tomorrow, to your point, they're probably not even getting out here for a month or 2 months. And then they're gonna do the work. Now we're, 30% of the way through our 6-month window. So we should move reasonably quickly to do that, because that'll establish the value.
Right.
And then at the same time, we were trying to sort out, okay, that's the value, but what does it cost to correct? So
Correct.
contractors, the state,
Mhm.
the state, somebody on the code enforcement side, I think both. They usually can work fine together, even if one's over their head.
Do we need to know the property lines and stuff I think before we have somebody come out and assess it? Do we need to have that done
That's the
first?
question of, is there a survey of that property? I don't believe
Survey,
there is.
Okay.
But that's something we can look into.
Yeah.
Is there a
So maybe
survey?
survey first and then do appraisal second, maybe, once we know what we're.
Yeah,
So is there value in having a report from either our local or the state code enforcement officer ready and to hand to an appraiser? So that the appraiser really knows what the condition of those buildings are, whether they meet code of any kind, or whether it's a danger to whatever. Because that would affect the appraisal value if the buildings, I mean, and I don't, appraisers, I assume, I don't know anything about it, but are not code enforcement officers.
No, appraisers, tend to take that property and compare it with the one in Blue Hill and the one in Hampton,
Yeah.
and they look at revenue, and they have that book where we think the price is worth this with this done. And this is what they would sell that one for in Blue Hill and that one for in Hamlin and Marine, and they would map it out to show us the different values around there.
Maybe we need.
That's what I.
Yeah, maybe
have
we
been
need to get
close
more
to.
information about what an appraiser actually does. Because it seems to me that if the buildings are deteriorating, that would reduce the value of the property.
Right.
So there's a lot of questions that we don't have the expertise to answer. But I would go with the free service first.
Yeah, just to get the ball rolling.
Is there, there was talk about a real estate company, about listing with do real estate companies have appraisal?
State law says that we cannot,
No, we can't depend on that. I'm just saying, is there a general feeling that we can get from a real estate company? Because this appraisal process may take a longer time. But a realtor, doesn't the town have a realtor that deals with their tax acquired properties? Can give us some idea of what the value of that property is before this is gonna take a while to get an appraisal. I mean, all these places are backed up and
Yeah.
it takes a while for them to get us on their schedule, and then it takes a while.
well, those are all questions we don't know. I guess we need to get those answers before we can.
And my own experience, which is limited, but involved enough. So, I found that real estate people, if you find someone willing to do it, will give you like a statement of value. And, so they'll spend a day or so trying to determine that. Likely the way Phil mentioned, try to look at comparable properties and do that. On the appraisal side, I think what they'd offer to us would be kind of a three, appraised in three ways. One is, what have other properties sold for? And surely there's some commercial marinas in the state that they could gauge, get some kind of gauge off of. So that's the traditional way. They'd also, offer an appraised value for whatever they consider to be highest and best use. Like an example of that might be, if they thought that an amphitheater would make sense there, probably not, right? But if they thought highest and best use is you put an amphitheater here and have, Stevie Nicks and, and all the hot acts come in, like that's maybe an example of highest and best use. And then as a business, as a marina, because that's what it is currently. So they value it as a marina, whatever they viewed as highest and best use, which, oh, by the way, might be a marina with 2 single families, and then just kind of as is. And so, I think that's pretty cut and dried. I'm not saying we need to race toward it, but, I think you'd probably by the next 2 weeks be in a position to decide whether when we're going to get an appraisal done and what it needs to be, right? Because the town's going to, like at some level, you have to value the property, right? If we're going to buy it or if we're going to sell it. And so I assume that's going to be a commercial appraisal to start that, but we can ask Casey.
So
And if
for
it is, we need to do it.
funding sources,
Yeah.
if we're going to be looking at grants, we
Yeah.
need a non-realtor related appraiser. So in other words, a
Okay.
license, and most real estate
Independent.
companies have them,
Yeah.
but they don't want any appraiser associated with the company that's actually maybe going to sell the property.
Right.
So like we couldn't use the appraiser of the people Casey is contracted with. So just keep that in mind.
There's also, I'm sorry, when you're done.
No, go ahead.
There's also another way of evaluating, not just highest and best use, but use for public, for the public, in other words, as a park or as a conservation area.
Right.
Those are uses that are harder to evaluate, monetarily because you don't have income stream necessarily from them, but their value to the community in terms of, like what you were saying about making this town more attractive, or someone was saying that last time. So that's a value that we could ask. I know that that's something that is used to look at properties that are, in conservation areas or beaches or, hiking areas or something. So it's not, a developer, would say highest and best use, let's
Yeah.
build condos on there.
Yeah, right.
But there's also other value for, a park.
Yeah.
Or a marina,
And in
a
fact,
town launching.
I learned that condo owners, Winterport needs people with disposable income. Condo owners have no disposable income because they plan everything out.
Huh, interesting.
And I shook my head when I first saw that. When I first came down here, I shook my head. What do you mean? Because they know where they're gonna spend their money. They're going to go out and they allow this much money. They're not gonna stop at your store and buy some soda and some beer and some ice cream.
Huh.
Because they know where they're going to spend it. And they just, it's non-disposable income because they don't budget for that. So, and I think you're right, put condos up there, we're gonna get the tax money off it.
Yeah.
But it won't be disposable income for the town. for the
and there will be
small
no
businesses.
public access either.
For the-
Yeah.
that's right.
So the whole point of this was to look at this property in relationship to the issue of disposable property, or leasing property we can lease and get some income from, or parcel it off and sell it, or create a public use.
Yeah.
So those are all questions, and those are questions that the community is going to have to be involved in answering, what they want to see that land use for. So I think we can present lots of options for them and with little price tags or beside them. I know, those are all, big picture questions, yes?
I'm thinking we ought to bring in or ask them to at least come and sit on one is the land use,
I'm sorry,
the land use committee.
yes.
Conservation Commission?
No, the land use ordinance does
The ones that
relate to
approve all
the
the
shoreland.
shorelands and neighborhood zonings and building projects and things like that.
The Planning Commission.
Yeah, planning board.
Planning board,
That's
yeah,
what we're
yeah.
talking about. I think we should bring them in and get their thoughts.
So what would they provide us?
Anything, something we may not have thought of.
Would you like me to invite them,
I think we should,
not to the next meeting, because that's with our
with the attorney.
lawyer,
Yeah.
but the following meeting?
Yeah.
That would be Jim Gilbert and
Yeah.
a few others.
Because one thing I noticed in this town happens is that there's no communication between the committees. And honestly, if we can get more people on board that know what's going on,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be easier to sell. And if, depending on how, and this is far too early, but if it has to do with anything with building and groundwork, we got a dozen contractors in town. They'll buy into it if they can make a few $1 million.
So the planning board question I would be posing to them is help us with what we need to think about.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the code enforcement. That's free again. We don't have to ask the town council for money. We're gonna have to ask the town council for money for the appraiser. And I think we need to have some information to be able to give the town council to encourage them to support that. Appraisers, I looked it up, appraisals can cost anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000, even up to $5,000, depending on the level of the appraisal that you want. Apparently, there are different levels. I don't, again, know much about it, but
I believe in our last meeting, it was stated that there was funds that were left. If that is the case, perhaps we're able to use those funds.
the problem is we don't know where those funds come from.
I thought Casey had said that he did.
He said that the auditor said it was a gift.
Mhm.
If it's a gift, there usually are conditions with gifts, and we need to know what those conditions are. So one of my tasks is to go through the records that we have, town meetings and selectmen meetings, and try to see where that money came from. Were you able to contact Allison?
We've been back and forth by text, so she might know, and I'm hoping she does. So Allison Economy chaired the Waterfront Access Committee that was formed after that. I believe it was a gift given, but through someone's estate. We just need to confirm that, because if it is, to your point, it's probably encumbered, probably, for a very specific purpose.
I guess my I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's it.
I was gonna say, I guess my next question would be, if there was previously a waterfront committee, is there information on what they had for ideas in regards to waterfront, and is that something we could see?
So, I have notes from, I did it, though they are not here. I have notes from talking with Donna Gilbert, who was on that committee, about, where they were in the process when COVID hit. And they were literally just getting started, had identified a group in Bucksport that had done some work there, and were brought them in to talk to the community about that work and how we might, it was called the Heart and Soul program. We can certainly invite Donna to come, because Donna is Jim Gilbert's, the planning board chair, wife, so it's possible that,
They're both in at the same time.
Yeah.
invite both of them to
A date
come.
night.
Could, if you can get in touch with Allison, could you invite her too?
Sure.
This would be the August,
I tried to join that committee. It was just defunct. It was COVID. So I probably had a 30-minute conversation with Allison about it. With Donna, my impression was that they were, to her point, interested in maybe a bit of using some of that money to do an official feasibility study with a consultant about something like the Bucksport waterfront, the Bangor waterfront. I don't think they got much past that idea. I think maybe there was some pushback from the town about doing something that grand. And then COVID hit, and that was that. So I don't know that there's a lot of lessons to be learned, but certainly worth inviting them. Yeah. Certainly can't hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
maybe some of the roadblocks, they ran into in terms of just taking on something like this. Now, they did not have property available to them to begin to do what we're doing with. They were really just beginning the process of how they might acquire money to purchase. And we're beginning to talk with landowners along the river to see if we could create a little walking trail up the river.
I mean, like with right of ways from the property owners.
Yeah, or easements or whatever they call them. Okay,
And that sounds like, that would be very useful to hear about, because
Yeah.
that's what makes that Bucksport walk so great, that it's.
I think we need to go ahead and schedule the code enforcement.
Could we do them both though? I know, because it sounds like the code inspector, which is free, it seems like they're a little bit quicker timeline. They'll just come. I feel like we could reach out to both a code inspector and the assessor, whoever,
Assessor?
appraiser, sorry. I was looking at my notes, I wrote assessor. Because why wouldn't we we have to do them both. And we are on a timeline. It sounds like we're gonna do the code inspector wait to get all that info back and then reach out to the appraiser and then have that lag time until they can come. But why wouldn't we reach out to both of them?
We can.
Right.
So number one, we need to identify an appraiser who has experience
Mhm.
with this kind of lot. It is zoned as a maritime district, maritime activities district, that lot.
Who zoned it that?
Which essentially means
Separate
you
state.
can do marinas and things like that there, and you can, but that's what the planning board knows now. The planning board has a chart that designates responsibilities for, who you go to talk to about any given thing, depending on the district that it's in. So there's resource protection districts, there's maritime activities, there's limited residential districts, there's all kinds of things. And then there's shoreline zoning, that complicates all of that. And so, our local code enforcement officer is the most frequently cited individual that anyone has to go to should they want to change or put up a structure or add things. So I really would advocate for, now he's new, so how much he knows, but he could dig into this.
Can we say we could get the state?
He'd get good, even if he doesn't, he'd get good experience.
Yeah,
And he can also provide some answers,
Mhm.
Code enforcement people to code enforcement people.
Yeah.
They sometimes talk the same language. And, yeah. But I was just thinking about something, one advantage I think we've got going for us is that's still a working waterfront.
Mhm.
If it was abandoned, I think we'd have to start from ground zero with permitting and everything like that. So this is kind of one.
There also is there's something in the state that, with federal money called brownfields, which is taking industrial property and doing the remediation, and there's federal and state money for that to dig it up and, do the testing.
could
See
you
if
look
there's-
more into that?
Yeah,
There
That's-
was one other thing, one other group of people we should contact would be our senator and representative. This is what we want to do for the community. It's mileage for them or it's a detriment. They can reach out to offices we don't think of.
Mhm.
So it sounds like some of our short-term goals then are to talk with the planning board and those individuals that are still in the area from the Waterfront Access Committee, and schedule that for August 13th. And then August 20th, ask our code enforcement officer to come and talk with us about what he might be able to help us with regarding the condition of the buildings up there, just the condition of the property itself.
Would we want to invite him, or just couldn't we have him do it rather than making it like another meeting and then
Yeah.
another thing? It just, I know our timeline's pretty tight on a lot of these things. So to me, it seems like we should probably schedule some of them versus having them come and talk to us and then schedule it. I think just scheduling them to do it, and then coming back with the information would be most beneficial.
So if we have consensus on that, I can ask Casey to ask him to go up and do an inspection.
Sure, and then I'm remembering now, it's more specifically, it's the state fire marshal's office that does that, but it's all about code. But so that might make it a better complement with the code enforcement. So it's code and then it's fire marshal, but it's really about code, right? I mean, that's what they're looking for.
Okay, can you make that contact?
I can, but I mean, if there's consensus, I'd advocate that we do both. And they usually can do it together and no one feels like they're stepping on the other person's toes. But yeah, I think you move forward with that because it's fairly easy and, I'd also favor, a few people are favoring, which is try to get the appraisal scheduled. But, knowing first that we need to ask a combination of Redmond Winchell, our council, and Casey, like, how does it need to be valued? Like what is there's certainly some requirement in terms of how you value that. And we know part of the answer is they can't be a real estate agent, but we don't know, do you have to go with highest and best use? Can you account for things like the value of conservation land? So we need to know what we're asking the appraiser, but as soon as we know that answer, I think we'd want that scheduled too, because we're probably 8 weeks away from seeing a report from someone from the day you make the call. So, I'd hate to lose another month just thinking about it. If we know, we know we need an appraisal. And I think we know we want to hear from code and fire. So fire is more in your world though. So do you have thoughts about what I just said? Remembering that the person I've referenced is the state fire marshal's office, not some state building code office.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because you're gonna be working on the waterfront. You're gonna have fuel, electrical components. You're gonna have a lot of that stuff, and that has to be brought up to code now. Yeah, I think we just ran them all in here all at once.
Yeah, exactly.
Put them, give them a nice, so the three of them or four of them can all sit together.
Yeah.
But I think that would be overkill.
Okay, I kind of lost this. We were talking about just asking them to go and do an inspection.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about do we want to bring them here to share what they found?
After.
Yeah,
they found
after.
it. I think Casey could make the original contact for us and get that scheduled, that
okay,
part.
okay.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
And state fire so I will follow up with Casey on that. State fire marshal's office, right? Don't we have a local fire marshal?
No.
Okay,
Not with the experience we need.
okay.
And that brings up forewarn. If we call fire marshal down there and he finds all sorts of violations,
Yeah,
it's gonna speed everything up quick.
yeah, I agree.
And they don't go away though, like you've opened Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we know now when the appraiser goes down here, this is how much it costs to fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I really, honestly, and if I'm being mean here, I don't care what they think. Right, the people down there, I care what we think and the townspeople.
That's our job. Our job is to be as objective as possible and not get into the emotional side of it.
I think we got a wonderful opportunity.
I got that lesson yesterday. We need someone to do a little research on how to ask for an appraisal, what we should be looking for in terms of this particular property.
Well, I'm wondering, the other marina, I wonder if that's been appraised. And if we could use that same appraiser. Because wasn't she gonna sell?
Right, but a real estate appraiser would,
Maybe she didn't never get an appraisal.
Yeah.
That's what I was just thinking, it'd be easy to.
I just assume leave that.
That could be valid.
Our job is to focus on this lot, and to start having a conversation with.
No, not to look at that, not to get that one.
No, but
Oh,
to
okay,
even
use the
have a
same.
conversation about with her about.
Oh,
Well,
Appraisals.
I think what she's saying is if there's other local marinas in the area that have had appraisals on their marina,
It
it
seems
may
like
be
that-
beneficial to see if we could find one that does that, if that's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it might-
Does
might be
anyone see
simpler.
what I'm trying to say about if we begin stretching, what's the word I want?
Like
I
getting
can't
references.
articulate what my concern is. My
You
concern.
wanna broaden our scope, you wanna narrow it?
No,
Not narrow.
no, my concern is that if we start having those conversations, we're going to set ourselves up for, other influences that really have no, bearing on what we're doing. I think our conversations need to be focused on that property, and what we need to find,
Are we
Like
trying?
a fresh person that hasn't been living for it.
yeah,
I mean, I think the question of the appraisal, I think, is maybe a little simpler than we're making it out to be. Like, in the end, regardless of what we say, the state or the town is responsible for some very specific type of valuation.
right.
But they have to be, right? So somebody just needs to tell us what that is,
Mm-hmm.
and then we need to hire, and then we find the person who can do it. Because if the town's buying the property from itself, essentially, there's got to be a pretty specific way it has to be valued. We might not know what exactly that is, but somebody does. So,
Right.
I mean, Casey and or Redmond Winchell knows that. So if we just ask them, how does it need to be valued?
I like that.
And then,
That's a
then
great
find the appraiser
question.
who can do it.
Okay.
I think it's pretty easy.
As
Yeah.
how we what?
Well, I mean, what kind of appraisal do we need on the
Yes.
property? And I'm happy to do that and report back to the group if you want. Just ask Casey, and then we can also ask Redmond Winchell next week.
Great.
And then coming out of next meeting, hopefully we know what we need.
Yeah, I think there's different levels of appraisals.
Right, right.
The completeness of it in terms of whether, if you're going for grants from the state, you may need a certain kind of appraisal.
Mhm.
Um,
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, so we have consensus that right now Sundance is going to investigate with Casey what kind of, and we'll talk to Redmond and Winchell. And I think we're gonna need to move on to that shortly here.
And they might be able to provide us with some information. See, we're just at the beginning of this.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, are we ready to move on to preparing for Redmond Winchell?
Sure.
Ready.
Okay. Can you all pull up the email or the email I sent you with the questions? I didn't see any new questions added to it. If you've noted somewhere in your own documentation, additional questions. So what else do we want to ask them? We want to ask them about what kind of appraisal we need, if they have any, what kind of appraisal might we need?
Mhm.
Or what kind of appraiser, too, really, appraiser.
Mhm.
We need for that particular property, right? Which they haven't seen. Oh, well.
I'm
Okay,
just kind of glad that all those boats that they don't own down there are on the land.
right.
Because once they're in the water, that's a different story.
I think that was another question, and I had asked it earlier that I had in regards to the boats and asking the lawyer, like, if people, like, what's the process for the boats?
Okay, so,
There's 45 or 48 boats on the property. We don't know which one, we'll have to find out which ones are abandoned, which ones are currently being paid for.
And knowing the previous owners as I do, where is the certificates?
Yeah.
you know, and the addresses and the titles to those
Right,
boats.
like we'll need to understand all of
What if
that.
we can't find them?
Like what, right,
Yeah,
so from a
that's
legal
that.
standpoint, what do we do?
So the question is, who is responsible for dealing
Mhm.
with what is there? That can be right? That's what we want to know, whether we're going to
Who and
hold them
how.
responsible or whether we're going to take ourselves responsible. Right?
Well, we can't just take somebody's boat off without notifying them, especially if they are paying, right? So we'd have to understand like, what's the process?
That's
If
Yeah.
indeed we take that on, I guess I'm trying
Yeah.
to say, the question is do we take that on or do we require them to?
a question for the lawyer.
The lawyer, right,
That's
that's
the
the thing, I
question
don't,
to
I
the
don't
lawyer.
know, that's the
Yeah.
So
question
at
to the
that-
lawyer.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The other, Vicky was saying about three notices in the paper for abandoned property or something, so.
But I
Once-
don't know.
Once we
Yeah.
take that over, if we do,
Mhm.
then that process, that probably would have to start all over again. I know when you change real estate and apartments and you evict somebody and you sell them before they're out, they gotta start the process all over again. It's a bitch.
And with the business that's now potentially on the property, like, how does that work? Are we able to, like, I guess I
Oh,
just don't know.
The business, we have nothing to do with the business. That's,
But it's a new building that's like right on the line.
The garage?
Yeah. Like,
but we would have nothing to do with that business. That,
But
when
we
we take
own the
over that
land.
property, they can't run that business, right?
that's what I'm asking. I don't know if that's, how does that work?
I was led to believe that if enough is offered to him, he's gonna vacate it and move across the street and build a house.
Yeah. So the
So we
question,
would not have that business. That business is part of the homestead?
It would be gone. That's all Chris is.
Or is that, okay,
We have to, I mean, essentially, I think they expect we have to buy that from them.
Yeah, we'd
the
have-
business and the
So
home?
then we have
Well,
to
not the
evaluate all the
business,
business.
but the garage.
it's only the physical building that we would be dealing with, not the business itself.
Put an ambulance in that garage.
He wants to take his business up to his property that he owns across the street, that's fine. If he can take that building with him, that's even better.
Mhm. I
But,
guess, what if he doesn't want to go? What legal recourse? do
well,
we
that's
have?
one of the questions I have. Can we
Right, if it
evict
squats, yeah.
those living on the property?
Or
And
can
what
you-
is the process for eviction?
Or can you require rent from the property because we own the land? If we had to, I mean, I don't know, I guess those are just all questions, I don't know.
It's not our concern. It's Casey's, because I know there's almost blood feuds down there between the house and where the garage is. And that's
But it's all part
Casey's.
of our property,
So
right?
not the house,
Not the
Chris,
house,
not
but the
one Chris,
land.
but the other one. And the land, yeah. But I mean, that's,
Oh, she was saying, we don't talk to them?
I think we have to tread carefully. I think we got lots of time to deal with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
and
Yeah,
that's,
We do.
yeah.
But
and-
I mean, it's pretty important though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, that's a unique thing,
Right,
Chris's
that
spot
is-
over there, like, what's gonna happen with that?
You know,
Right,
What are all the implications?
legally.
Trying to get him out of there if he doesn't wanna go.
Okay,
And if
is
they're
it
saying
price?
it's nonprofit, like, is there different legal
I think
aspects to
that's
that?
up on the other property.
Oh.
She has a riding ring up there and, so her nonprofit, again, anything, that has nothing to do with the property. Nothing. We don't need to be concerned about their businesses there at all. Or their horses, or their barns, or anything, other than the fact that we own it. It's tax acquired. We don't own it yet because we haven't bought it. But we're not buying the business, we're not buying the horses.
I
Right?
guess I'm just wondering from a legal aspect,
That's a
So we
good
should
question.
ask them,
for-
yeah.
Our
Yeah.
questions,
Does-
I'm curious, we're talking about
Right.
what questions we want to ask the lawyer.
Yes.
So these are questions I want to ask
Right.
the lawyer.
So I almost had it written down and I kind of lost
Then
it.
we distracted you, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Specific,
Regarding the business that's on the property, the piece of land that we own. And the business isn't even on this document, and it looked like it was right on the line. So I guess I'm just curious, like legally, how do we handle that?
legally,
We'll have to ask them.
how do we handle the businesses
On the property?
now operating on the property?
Currently operating on the
Okay,
land,
currently operating.
on the land.
Lawyers are gonna love us, they get charged by the hour.
Well, and, these are just to get the conversation started. All kinds of questions are gonna come up in our minds as we go through this.
I do have a question. How does the Superior Court decision affect the town's right to tame the property? Is that
Yes.
what you were talking about with this court settlement?
Right,
Uh,
that's exactly, so did you just read that question from the sheet, or did you just?
No, I just read that question from the sheet.
Well, so on the, okay. So how does the Superior Court decision affect the town's right to the Hamer property? Not the house, we already know that's theirs. And I agree, the Superior Court said that 1.1 acre is his.
If that house doesn't have a deed though,
Right.
it doesn't legally
The land,
belong to
right.
anyone. So that's-
So-
Everybody's paying taxes on it, so how does that work?
Right.
Right.
So, but that is an important question.
Well, I do know that when this took place, a little bit of the rumored history. He was getting ready to go to jail and he needed somebody to hide the property.
Yeah. So we're not
And
gonna
then
talk
when he got
about,
out of jail,
yeah,
they would deed it back to him, and apparently that
So-
didn't happen to his son.
right, so,
Chris is
Yeah.
his son.
we won't, be involved in sorting through that, thank
No,
goodness.
that'll be
Yeah,
I think all we need to focus on is what's it gonna cost us to get the property? What's it gonna cost for the improvements? How?
Yeah, I think it boils down to that too. We gotta really get started on that.
Yeah.
Which is what we're doing with the appraisal, with the code enforcement at the state, and then a contractor of some type, right, eventually.
Was there anything from I can't remember their names, some of the people that were here last week that sent that report out to us, their site visit notes?
Oh, actually, I have those.
Was there anything that they?
I have to say, I was quite impressed because we were well received down there. I did not expect that.
They had questions about, this would be more, I guess, a land survey or something, but existing water, septic and power lines. Do the buildings have water and power?
that wouldn't be for the lawyer, so keep
No.
going.
Let me see.
Those are good questions. That code
Well,
enforcement
and that probably
officer.
comes with
Right.
either the contractor / inspector.
Mhm.
Well, she said Vicky said that Chris would know the answers to those, the
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah.
They were worried about the cost of cleaning up the debris.
Because that all can be
So,
deducted from the cost.
so we kind of got at that on this. What can we deduct from the appraised price, which would be things like the cost of cleanup, right?
That's gonna be expensive.
Right? Because we can deduct from the appraised price, so that would
Oh,
lower the
yeah.
actual
Yeah.
cost of purchasing the
Right.
property.
Right.
And we would be responsible for the rebuilding of it.
And then I don't know if this would be a lawyer question. Can we subdivide the lot, sell a parcel close to the road and then keep the rest? Or I guess that's kind of interesting. Does it have to be, do we want all 10 acres or would it make sense to?
Can we sell or subdivide? That would be a good question to ask the planning board too.
Yeah.
Real good. I'm gonna send you a copy of that chart that shows who's responsible for what related to land use, so that you have a sense of the kinds of things that, yeah, I'll just send you that. It's very informative. Okay, can we sell or subdivide? Okay. So I'm going to go and type these up tonight and mail them off, or send them off to Casey, who will send them off to Rudman Winchell. And they will be here next Wednesday at 7:00 to talk with us.
Just one question about that last question. So can we sell or subdivide? I mean, if that is intended like prior to acquiring the entire property, like can we acquire a piece but subdivide a piece out and not acquire it? That feels like a Rudman Winchell question. I think what they're asking is, once we acquire it, could we then?
Yeah, I think.
Could we then subdivide it? And that, we don't need to pay an attorney to tell us that. The town knows the answer to that, right?
Yeah, the planning board should know that.
Yeah, so we don't need to ask
I
Rudman
would
about
want to
that.
know last time that property was surveyed.
Well, yes, we've already talked about, that was one of the things that came up today, the need for a survey. So the first question is there even a survey? So,
Does the map indicate any date on, or a surveyor's mark on it?
So the person who holds the surveys, I believe, is Travis, the tax assessor. So,
Well, the things I learned, you can't go by this
yeah,
that he printed off.
so I'll ask Casey/Travis about any survey in the records, if you will.
I think at our last meeting,
There
we
is a
did say
rebar
we really
found.
do need one. A new one.
And a rebar. They've got the locations of the iron rod and the rebars. But if we went for any, I think any kind of grant money or
Okay.
bonds or anything, they'd want a fresh survey because they're not saying.
Okay.
2007.
So have we exhausted the questions to Rudman Winchell? Did I get,
We'll probably find more.
Yeah, probably
Can
some in conversation. but-
okay, can I read them through real quick, just to make sure I got everyone's, because we were drifting. What can we deduct from the appraised price? For example, cost of cleanup. Can we require the owners to move their property off the town's land, their houses, their garages, their cars, their boats? That's their property. Can we evict those living on the property, and what is the process? How does the Superior Court decision affect the town's right to the Hamer property? What legal entanglements might complicate the town's ability to retain the property? What exactly is the 120-day requirement in Section 7 of state statute? What kind of appraisal or appraiser do we need for that particular lot? Who is responsible for dealing with what is there? Legally, how do we handle the businesses currently operating on the property? And can we sell subdivide? Is that something we still want to ask or wait to put that
I
off?
think that's a planning board question.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, planning board question. Okay, good, we're good,
Great.
okay.
Motion to adjourn?
So,
You're close. I think.
yes, I just want to,
Oh,
the
sorry.
future.
Yeah.
The future agenda items that I mentioned before, that I'm going to put on the agenda next time. We might not get to it, we might have time to get to it. It'll just be a standing agenda item will be our process. And Sundance, did you get my email about turning that document you sent me into a PDF?
I will, I'll be better about responding from this point
Okay.
forward, but yeah, I can turn that into a PDF, which is
Okay.
just a potential outline of how you might organize the next 6
Right.
months.
Right, so our process, the remote participation policy, so that if someone is away but wants to be here and counted, they can phone in. And our rules of procedure, so we need to finalize those, so. But yes,
I was asking, I can wait till you finish.
Huh?
I can wait till you finish.
you can add another future agenda item if you want.
No.
No?
No.
Okay, I'm done.
I think we got enough.
I know, we've got a lot. We knew that coming in.
Well,
Except
and I
Sheila
think
said
this-
she
This
didn't.
first meeting, the second meeting, we're getting ourselves, we need to do this, this, and this. And that will lead to another this, this, and this. But if we keep moving forward. But my comment was, and my question is, please don't send me any Google Docs.
Please don't.
Send me any Google Docs. I have a Google account that's grossly overfull and is shutting everything down, so I don't get that.
Oh, geez, okay.
And I don't know the passwords or anything to get into it.
So
My
how are we
wife
gonna
wants to
get
prepare
you,
Consider
Just
the new one.
regular on email with Microsoft Word or.
PDF.
just send you a Word doc?
Yep.
Okay, I mean, that's not a problem. But a PD, you should be able to open a PDF.
I don't know, depends on what mood my computers are in, because now they're sharing. Well, we used them all down to the business.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
And they're still on those protocols. So I have to think back, what was the login I used 4 years ago? And it just really sucks, and the wife just doesn't want to go buy new computers yet. And they
Okay,
start talking to each other and updating across all of my phone, my computers, her computers, everything.
we will figure out a way to.
I'm not whining.
I have a quick question too. In 2 weeks, on August 13th, that's my daughter's birthday, so do we have any?
Pardon?
Are we able to shift nights? Or does it have to be? set?
Well, if you can't come to one meeting, that's all right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still,
Yeah,
you don't have
that's
to.
that's when we're gonna have the planning board meeting.
On the 13th?
Yeah. I would be really leery of moving meeting
Okay.
days. We had agreed that Wednesday would work.
Okay.
Obviously, it didn't work for Gretchen and Nathan tonight. It's not gonna work for everybody.
I didn't know if we could.
I know.
How old is
And we'll
Scott?
have, we'll assign someone to do your job.
Okay.
So that the minutes are taken. Yeah, are you okay with that?
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it. I just didn't know if it was flexible.
Yeah,
So next week we're going back at 6 PM.
Well,
So-
are we?
7 p.m.
7 PM.
7 p.m. on the
August
See how
13th,
easy I wander?
August 8th.
August 6th is with the lawyer, August 13th is with the planning board. If they can make it, that's obviously,
Yeah,
we'll
right,
find
right.
out.
And we're going through Casey for that, right? Or who's contacting them?
I am,
You are.
but yeah, I'm contacting Jim, and asking him to invite the other
Okay,
planning board members.
great.
Okay.
And the previous person that was on the Waterfront committee, right?
I'm gonna
Allison and Donna, yeah.
As far as tasks go, do we need to review the tasks? Is everyone pretty comfortable with what their own individual tasks are?
I'm
at
gonna
this
look into
point?
brownfields.
Mhm.
Got that already.
Okay,
Great.
all right. Good enough. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Next time, don't sound so excited when you get done inviting.
Any discussion on the motion to adjourn?
No.
All in favor? Okay, Okay, I think we cleared our minds really nicely tonight. And got ourselves focused.
It helps, it helps us see.
Well done.
Yeah, definitely great idea to start there, whoever had that idea.
Okay, that's off. Goodbye.